Imagine a painter, a man whose hands never trembled with anger, whose brush moved as calmly as a prayer, a friar who believed that every color was a gift from God. In 15th century Italy, a time when war, greed, and political chaos consumed the land, a humble monk created art so extraordinary that people said, only an angel could have painted this. His name was Guido di Pietro, but history gave him another name, Fra Angelico, the angelic brother. His paintings glow with a mysterious light. The saints he painted seem to breathe, and every fresco he created carries the serenity of a man who viewed the world differently, with neither force nor fear nor fame, only pure faith. But who was this friar? Why did the church protect him like a treasure? And how did a simple monk, centuries later, come to be declared a saint? Today we will explore the life of the man whose art people described as painted by holy hands. Fact 1. Birth. A miracle begins on the quiet edge of Florence. Fra Angelico was born around 1395 in the region of Tuscany near Florence, a place where art and faith breathed together. Florence at the time was more than just a city. It was Europe's greatest artistic hub, a furnace of ideas where geniuses like Leonardo, Botticelli, and Brunelleschi once walked. His family was not wealthy, but far from poor. He entered the world as Guido di Pietro. His father was a humble craftsman, a first bridge for young Guido into the world of colors and light. Their home was always filled with the smell of paint, scraps of canvas, and small artistic creations. It was the perfect environment to nurture a child's imagination. As a boy, he wandered the streets of Florence, watching children play and marveling at the frescoes painted on walls by local artists. Guido was different. He didn't just watch, he observed in silence with awe. He felt the colors create a rhythm like a prayer, a quiet music only his heart could hear. As he grew, his calm and contemplative nature drew attention. He spoke little and listened more, a serenity that would later earn him the name Angelico, reflecting his angelic demeanor. The greatest influence on young Guido came from Florence's churches. The radiant frescoes, holy figures, and festive scenes he saw left a profound mark on his soul. These sacred spaces shaped his imagination and inspired the quiet devotion that would define his life. And that silent, observant child would one day step through the doors of a Dominican monastery and become Fra Angelico, the monk whose angelic touch would transform the world of art. Fact 2. Entering the monastery, a young man turning from the world to the light. As a teenager, young Guido di Pietro was already caught between two great forces: his love for art and the profound stillness of faith. The streets of Florence were noisy at the time. Merchants, wealthy families, and political struggles filled the city. Yet Guido was drawn less to this chaos and more to the peace he found inside the churches. It is said that he would visit churches at night, watching frescoes in the flickering candlelight. Those scenes felt to him not like ordinary paintings, but as if doors to another world were opening. One day he arrived at the Dominican monastery in Florence. In the courtyard, monks walked quietly, their prayers rising softly in the air. Seeing this, Guido felt a strange calm within himself, as if he had finally found the silence he had been searching for all his life. The Dominicans were not only devoted to prayer, they viewed art as the language of God. Icons, frescoes, sacred paintings, every work of art was infused with faith. For Guido, this was the clearest sign of his destiny. So in 1418, he made one of the most important decisions of his life. He left behind the noise of the world and joined the Dominican order, receiving a new name, Fra Giovanni. Yet over time, even this name was overshadowed. For those who saw his luminous paintings would say, "This man paints like an angel." And so history gave him the name Fra Angelico. From that day forward, Guido was no longer just a painter. He was an artist who carried his faith at the tip of his brush. Fact 3. First major works. Fame born on the walls of Florence. After joining the Dominican order, Fra Angelico, then Fra Giovanni, began creating his first major works in the monastery's quiet, dimly lit studio. The space, filled with the scent of paper, purified pigments, and flickering candlelight, felt less like a simple room and more like a temple where inspiration was born. One of his earliest works included small altar panels and icons. Yet there was such delicacy in them that the monks would say, "The angel he painted will open its eyes any moment now." Angelico didn't just paint realistic figures. He imbued them with light, a quiet strength in their gaze. This was unlike other painters of his time. People who viewed his paintings felt something unique, as if he could see a light that others could not. One day his painting, Madonna and Child, for a small Florentine church caught the attention of the city's artists. Word spread. There is a Dominican friar. His paintings carry the light of heaven. Soon his fame reached the most important circles of Florence, master artists, merchants, even the wealthy Medici family. Before long, Fra Angelico was painting not only for the monastery, but for the city, churches, and affluent patrons. His name became synonymous with delicacy, purity, and divine beauty. Another hallmark of his early recognition was his approach to emotion. He never sought to create dark drama. Every figure in his paintings carried gentleness. Every color transitioned softly, and every expression conveyed subtle emotion. Unlike the harsher religious art of the era, Angelico touched the human soul. Some artists would say, Fra Angelico prays through his paintings. These early works, small altar panels, icons, and devotional pieces, were the first signs that he would become Florence's most revered fresco master. Fact 4. The Miracle of San Marco. Frescoes that speak like prayer. Fra Angelico's artistic pinnacle came at the San Marco Monastery. Between 1430 and 1440, Florence was a city of both political turmoil and a rapidly evolving art scene. During this period, the Medici family decided to renovate the monastery, sparking a question across the city. Who will paint the new monastery's frescoes? The answer was almost certain. The calm and serene friar painter, Fra Angelico. As he entered the monastery, Angelico faced wide, empty walls. Soft morning light streamed through the windows, illuminating the space. These walls were no ordinary stone. They were a silent universe that would influence the monks' spirits, appearing before them during daily prayers. Angelico didn't see these walls as mere surfaces for art. He viewed them as extensions of a praying heart. Once the work began, a strange tranquility enveloped the monastery. Shell-like light, pure pigments, and delicate brushwork flowed from his hand with divine harmony. Monks noted that while painting, Angelico's eyes would sometimes fill with tears, and he would breathe deeply, as if seeing the sacred scenes he depicted. At San Marco, he created over 50 frescoes, but these works differed from others. They were not grand, commercial art pieces. They were for the spirit, not the audience. Only the monks would see them, in daily prayer rooms, their cells, and narrow corridors. In each cell, Angelico painted simple yet breathtaking scenes. The resurrection of Christ, the visitation of angels, praying saints. Their simplicity was so profound that monks would say, These frescoes greet us when we wake and send us on our way when we sleep. The most striking feature of the San Marco frescoes is light. Angelico didn't treat light as just a color. He worked with it as if it were spiritual energy. Light touched the faces of figures, making each scene seem alive, as if breathing. Some historians say the San Marco frescoes are Angelico's soul painted on walls. These works were more than art. They were visual traces of a man's dialogue with God. Fact 5. The secrets of divine colors, the miracle from blue to golden light. Fra Angelico's greatest secret was neither his brush nor his technique. His art breathed with light. In his hands, colors were not mere pigments. They transformed into a quiet prayer, a soft glow like an angel's wing. While other painters of the time often used color merely to decorate a scene, Angelico touched the human heart with color. Ultramarine blue, the color from heaven. The most expensive pigment of the time was ultramarine, made only from lapis lazuli, mined in Afghanistan. It was even more valuable than gold. Yet Angelico did not use this precious color frivolously. He applied the blue, considered the color of sacred moments, only in scenes of mercy, angels' garments, Mary's cloak, to show that light comes from God. The monks would say, his blue is the very sky, golden glow, not material wealth, but divine light. Angelico used gold not as a symbol of earthly wealth, but as a sign of divine illumination. In his paintings, gold does not blaze or shine. It simply adds a spiritual warmth to the scene. In some frescoes, gold is so delicately sprinkled that the viewer cannot tell where it comes from. It seems to emerge spontaneously from the figure's face or an angel's wing. Soft transitions, harmony touching the soul. Angelico avoided harsh shadows. He created such delicate color transitions on faces and garments that the scene appears not rigid, but like a dream without edges. Historians say, he did not paint light. He gave shape to light itself. The prayer effect of colors. People viewing his paintings often reported a single feeling: serenity. Angelico did not create sound with colors. He created silence. And this silence resembled the prayers of the monks. Art historian Vasari described him this way: the light in his paintings is not the light of the brush, but the light of the heart. This unique, luminous language of color has kept Fra Angelico remembered for centuries as the painter who painted like an angel. Fact 6. The Vatican calling, divine stories in the Nicolene Chapel. A new chapter in Fra Angelico's art began when he was personally summoned by the Vatican. In 1447, Pope Nicholas V invited him to Rome to create sacred frescoes for the Nicolene Chapel. This was not just a job, it was recognition of his spiritual and artistic mastery on a global stage. In the chapel, Angelico painted scenes from the life of Christ, sacred stories, and divine miracles. Each fresco was intended not only for beauty, but as a lesson in faith, infused with prayer and spiritual depth. His work seemed to breathe with light, and the colors created a profound sense of silence and devotion. The Vatican gained not just a skilled painter, but an artist whose work carried a spiritual message. From Angelico's creations in the Nicolene Chapel, further cemented his title as the painter who painted like an angel, establishing him among the highest echelons of artistic and religious recognition in Europe. Fact 7. Simplicity and kindness. An angelic life. Fra Angelico's life was defined by simplicity, humility, and kindness. Despite his growing fame as a master painter, he never sought wealth, power, or worldly recognition. Monastic simplicity. He lived in a small cell in the Dominican monastery, wearing the simple robe of a friar, eating modest meals, and dedicating most of his day to prayer and painting. Kindness to others. Angelico was known for his gentle nature. He helped fellow monks, guided younger novices, and treated everyone, from patrons to the poorest pilgrims, with respect and compassion. Art as devotion. His art was never for self-glorification. Each fresco, icon, and altarpiece was a prayer in color, reflecting his devotion and his desire to inspire faith and serenity in others. Daily rituals. Even as his reputation spread across Florence and beyond, he remained a humble servant of God, beginning and ending each day with prayer, letting his work flow from a heart of devotion rather than ambition. From Fra Angelico's angelic reputation came not only from his extraordinary talent, but from a life lived in quiet virtue, a life where simplicity and kindness were as luminous as the gold leaf in his paintings. Fact 8. Fra Angelico and his deep religious faith. Fra Angelico devoted his entire life to faith and religious commitment. He was not only an extraordinary artist, but also a deeply devout friar of the Dominican order. Prayer and worship were at the center of his life. He spent his days praying in the church and meditating in the quiet of the monastery. His art was an extension of his religious practice. He painted for God, treating every brushstroke as an act of devotion. He lived a simple and humble life. Wealth, fame, and worldly comfort held no interest for him. His attention was entirely on God and his faith. Fra Angelico also showed compassion to others. His religious devotion influenced his behavior. He never harmed anyone and always sought to help those in need. Even his death reflected his faith. When he passed away in 1455, he wore a calm, prayerful expression, as if maintaining his connection with God until the very end. From Angelico's religious devotion permeated not only his personal life, but all of his artwork, which is why his paintings are often called praying paintings and have inspired generations for centuries. Fact 9. The artist who harmed no one in his life. Fra Angelico was not only a miracle-working painter in art, but also a truly kind and compassionate human being. His life, just as much as his art, was guided by faith and love for others. Simple and humble life. Fra Angelico never sought wealth, fame, or worldly comfort. He lived in a small monastery cell, kept his meals and clothing simple, and devoted all his attention to prayer and painting. Treatment of others. He harmed no one and always sought to help others. Whether fellow monks, patrons, or ordinary people, he treated everyone with compassion and care, embodying faith in his actions. Art as devotion. Every work he created was more than a beautiful painting. They were praying paintings, pieces that calmed the soul, reflected kindness and mercy, and brought those who viewed them closer to divine light. Legacy. His name became immortal as the angelic painter. His life and work served as an example not only in Florence's artistic circles, but also within religious communities, inspiring generations with gentleness and devotion. Modern perspective. Today, Fra Angelico's life teaches us that true greatness is measured not only by skill, but by the mercy and kindness within the human heart. Through his life and art, Fra Angelico became an angelic figure who harmed no one, leaving a legacy of compassion as luminous as his paintings. Fact 10. Fra Angelico's death and legacy. Fra Angelico passed away in Florence in 1455. True to his life, his death was peaceful and calm, surrounded by neither scandal, intrigue, nor violence. After his passing, his art and character were honored with great respect. Both churches and fellow artists drew inspiration from his name. Pope Nicholas V sought to recognize him as a saint posthumously, valuing his spiritual and artistic contributions highly. Fra Angelico's legacy lived on not only through his paintings, but also in the inspiration he brought to people's lives. His art has endured through the centuries as a symbol of pure faith and kindness, remaining a timeless source of inspiration. Discover the life of Fra Angelico, the painter who painted like an angel. From humble beginnings to sacred masterpieces in Florence and the Vatican, his art breathed light, peace, and faith into every brushstroke. Watch as we explore his divine colors, serene frescoes, and timeless legacy. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to follow more inspiring stories from history.